Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is the 23 Road World Men's Championships. Guys, this is the one-day big highlight. We know we have the 5 monument races throughout each season, but you also have a 6th because it's called the Men's Road World Championships. This today. Today's race at 270 kilometers is a monster in length, and it has 10 circuits of 14.3 kilometers at the finish that are twisty, technical, up, down, lefts, rights, every direction imaginable. At points in times, you can see the riders going off in this direction as they've done a loop, and the front of the peloton's going this way. Other guys are going across the start-finish line that way. There's so many turns in today's race. They're talking something of around the number of 500 turns on the finishing circuit of about 145 kilometers. Now, like I said, the race is 270 kilometers long. We know all the big-time hitters, right? We know it's Belgium because they have not 1, not 2, but 3 leaders. Jasper Philipsen, the fastest sprinter in the world. We saw him win 4 stages of the Tour de France, plus the green jersey. Wout van Aert, number 5 best rider in the world up here on the Butterfly Effect and Beyond the Covers. You know he's quality when it comes to one-day races, and you know he wants a Road World Championship band. Now, they got a 3rd rider, though, on the Belgium team, too, because they got Remco Evenepoel. He is the current Road World Champion. So Belgium have all kinds of numbers and all kinds of tactics that they can play in today's Road World Championships. Now, from the Belgium directors, Fim, I will be setting it up where you know with Jasper Philipsen, you don't need to make the race as hard as it possibly can because you have the best sprinter in the world if it comes down to a field sprint. If other teams want to make it hard, well, you have Wout van Aert and Remco Evenepoel. Like I told you guys on the last video I did with Beyond the Covers, that Remco Evenepoel can cover everything from 100K out. Wout van Aert can easily start covering things from under 50 kilometers, especially under 30K to go, if teams want to make it difficult. And then you got Jasper Philipsen for the last 5 kilometers if he turns over to his teammates and says, hey, I got the legs, I'm good. We're 165 kilometers into this race. 265 kilometers into this race. My legs are still good, guys. Leave me out, I can win this. So when you keep it in mind with three guys that can win for the Belgium team, all you got to do is keep the gap to the front break. Whoever gets away in the early moves here at the Road World Championships close. So when you come down into the circuit, you can play the tactical cards. On top of that, remember, most teams only have 8 riders here, but because Belgium won the Road World Championships last year with Remco Evenepoel, they have 9 guys. So when you're the other teams, when you're Team France, when you're Slovenia, when you're Denmark, when you're Italy, you don't need to make the race hard if there's already a sizable break up the road, but you want it to be difficult and complicated sometime throughout the race. Doesn't need to be from kilometer 0, but you need to, at some point in time, be attacking the Belgium team. Not pulling them, but attacking them because you want the Belgium team to be on the front in the win, because when you're in the win, Garrett, you're working harder. So keep that in mind. If you're one of the teams that's not called Belgium, you want to go up the road without a Belgium rider so that the Belgium team behind can start riding on the front so that they're blowing chips away. Now, when the racing starts, we see the Portuguese rider, and he's already having problems. Almeida, he crashed in the neutral section, and guess what? The officials didn't wait for the Portuguese rider. They're going to throw the flag down anyway, so Almeida's going to be hurting, and we haven't even started kilometer 0. Well, up front, they started kilometer 0, and then Almeida back there, he's going to get some help from the medical car. Eventually, he'll get back up to the peloton, but last time I saw, his hands were pretty banged up, and I didn't see him do much of a play anytime throughout this Road World Championship, so that neutral crash must have hurt a little bit. Now we're going to have 9 guys going up the road. Those 9 guys are going to get about 7.5 minutes maximum time on today's Road World Championships. And behind, guess who the first knuckleheads are? Well, it's the Slovenian team. They're riding on the front because they got Tadej Pogačar, but they're helping the Belgium team. On top of that, the Belgium team, like I said, have 9 riders in this Road World Championship. So when they put 1 on the front, they haven't even started to reduce their numbers when you compare them to other teams. Now, they got 1 guy riding the front. That's Frederic Vizon. He's riding the front. Slovenian's on the front, too. Those 9 guys up front, they're going full gas, working pretty well together. Like I said, getting the time up there pretty quick to about 7.5 minutes. 3 guys caught in the gap with George Bennett being one of the bigger names there, but they won't ever catch the front guys. Now we got about 190 kilometers to go. The race is going to have a neutral stop because there's going to be a protest. That's going to last for about an hour's time where everybody gets an hour break. We're going to see guys socializing all over the place. See the Netherlands teams at the back. That's Matthew van der Poel that the picture's looking at. That's facing the camera there. Matthew van der Poel sitting at the back, and then we'll see other guys sitting in the car and chit-chatting. Finally, the race gets started. The 9 guys up front, they start going full gas, and we go into the first only real climb here throughout the early part when we're racing from the beginning until the circuit starts. Once we look at the peloton behind, once they started after that protest, we see there's a split, and it's the Dutchies back there that are going full gas because Matthew van der Poel started at the back. There's a split because a couple cars parked on the road caused a split in the peloton. They're going full gas at the front with the Belgium team Frederik Vizon. So we look back there at the Dutchies. They're going full gas to bring Matthew van der Poel back up to the front of the peloton. Well, they will get him back on, of course, but they had to spend some chips back there from their team. Now, as everything's all back together with the peloton, we're coming into the circuit. Things are getting nervous. It's curb to curb in the peloton. We see the Australian team's going to win the battle when they start getting onto the city streets here of the circuit proper. Australia's going full gas. Now we look up at the break. The gap's getting down to about 4 minutes and a half up there to the breakaway of 9 who are working well together here at the Road World Championships. Behind, once they hit the circuit proper, though, it's Team Denmark getting on the front. They're lighting it up because they have Mads Pedersen, and he's an ex-Road World Champion. So they know they want to set him up, but you guys are knuckleheads. Man, what are you doing on the front? Let me back the film up just a little bit before they got on the circuit, too, because the French team was riding the front with Frederik Vizon before they came to that neutral stop there with the protest, and I gotta believe you guys are knuckleheads too. What you want to do is make Belgium have to work and bring everything back. Guys, they come in with 3 favorites here. There's no reason for the French team to be on the front. The Australian team riding the front as we're coming into the circuit. I don't have much of a problem with that. That's just fighting for positioning. But once you get on the circuit, when you see Denmark on the front, pulling the Belgium team behind them, going full gas for almost a lap on the circuit, you guys are a bunch of knuckleheads. If you want to attack and go up the road, go ahead and do it, but don't just pull Belgium behind. Instead, Denmark's going full gas on this first lap. During the first lap, there was an incident with Mikkel Bjerg. Look over as he's pulled over to the left side of the road. Now, this is where the officials are absolute knuckleheads. Every time they've brought me over to England, and now the Road World Championships are in Scotland, so they're racing on the left side of the road when they have to pull over and change bikes. Our whole career, you pull over to the right. Why do you pull over to the right? Because that's the way they do it. So when you get over here to England, you should be pulling over to the right because the whole professional peloton's used to the right. Now they're pulling over to the left. You see Mikkel Bjerg. He gets a big push from the mechanic there. When the mechanic runs back to jump in his car, look at his face. He looks straight back at the group coming that got and dropped, going full gas on the left side of the road. Guys, this is a nightmare because the cars are on the left. Mechanic sees it coming. What does he do? He slams the door shut. He's smart, maybe one of the smartest guys racing here at the Road World Championships, or at least involved in it. He shuts the door, runs to the front of the car, and then the drop riders come flying straight past the motorcycle camera, past the mechanic's car, and past the mechanic who just barely got out of the way. Otherwise, he's going to get ran over, and we're going to see another crash. Now, Mikkel Bjerg's going to have another incident later on as we see his race here at the Road World Championships is over. But the officials, man, you guys are knucklehead. How much intelligence does it take to know to keep changing on the right side of the road? Nobody in the European pelotons used to changing on the left. These kind of incidents I saw happen every time I went racing over in England throughout my professional career, where guys were all over the place. And I can tell you some scary stories throughout my career while I was doing the Olympics in 2012. It was absolutely ridiculous. But we got the Road World Championship, so let's get back into it. Like I said, Denmark was at the front. Guess who's the first rider to attack? It's the Frenchman Julian Alaphilippe on the circuit. Throws in a big attack. It's covered right away from one of the Denmark riders. And while that's happening, he's going to get pulled back because we're going to see the Belgium team there of Thies Benoot starting to pull those 2 guys back. Now, coming on this second lap here, we're going to see that there's a crash, and Jasper Philipsen's going to be caught up in it. I don't know if he went down, but he's definitely held up, and this will be about the end of the day here for Jasper Philipsen because he's going to drop out a little bit later here in the Road World Championships, so that gets rid of one of the 3 leaders that the Belgium team had. Now up front, what's going on? Well, I told you, Julian Alaphilippe got brought back. We're going to see Christophe Laporte have a problem, and Christophe Laporte's their big-time favorite for the French team. Do they drop anyone back? Nope, only Julian Alaphilippe comes back, who is getting dropped anyways. So when we listen to the GCN commentators, he's talking Brian Smith. I wouldn't bring anybody back for Laporte. I would have brought the whole team back. Now, I don't know if my plan works out any better than Brian Smith's plan, but Brian Smith, when you're thinking about it, when you're looking at Christophe Laporte, he's the only real candidate to win here at today's Road World Championships if it's not Julian Alaphilippe. And we know Julian Alaphilippe doesn't have form because he's the only guy getting dropped out of the front group. We're coming into about 3 laps into the race, and the peloton's already blown up all over the place, and we're down to about half the peloton. All of a sudden, we're coming into 102 kilometers to go. Denmark's back on the front, and they split the group. They got 3 riders from Denmark, and one's Mads Pedersen. That's their leader. Only problem, again, when I'm looking at this move from Denmark, well, they're pulling a bunch of Belgies, right? We see Wout van Aert's in this group, and a lot of the big-time favorites with Mathieu van der Poel. And, of course, we got Tadej Pogacar in this front group. So there's not much of a benefit when I'm looking at the work here. I'm watching Denmark on the front pulling hard with Skjelmos and Soren Kragh Andersen, the first guy on the front of this group. There's no benefit. I don't see anything. You're looking at all the Belgium, all the favorites. What are you guys gaining out of this? Well, right now it looks like you're just pulling the Belgies around because there's still a group of 9 up the road. Of course, the gap is coming down, but guess what? With all the work from Denmark when they entered this circuit, now at 100 kilometers to go with them pulling on the front again, they're causing chaos in the peloton, but Belgium's still not on the front. It'll come back together, of course, because a lot of Belgium guys were stuck in the second group, pulling it back with Remco Evenepoel in that group. And now we got like 5 Belgium teammates in this front group. We get into about 90 kilometers to go. Guess what? It's time for Mathieu van der Poel, the Dutchman, to go to work. Remember, he got caught in that split when the racing started again after the protest. 90 kilometers to go, though. He's drilling it. He sees it. He sees the big acceleration. Then all of a sudden, we see, of course, Wout van Aert's locked on. We see Tadej Pogacar is there. All the hitters are still in this front group. Mathieu van der Poel's move right here made some selection, but remember, it's 90 kilometers to go, so it's still a long ways from the finish. Things will come right back together again, and then with 80 kilometers to go, we're going to see Remco Evenepoel throw in attacks. Guys, I've missed attacks left and right. You have to watch at least the whole last 150 kilometers of this Road World Championships to get them all. But with the attack of Remco Evenepoel, nobody's letting this kid go away either because he's the current Road World Champion. So they'll bring that move back right away. We'll get into about 73 kilometers to go. Mathieu van der Poel's throwing in another attack. This one causes some selection. Big time hit here from Mathieu van der Poel as he's accelerating up the road. Tadej Pogacar's in the group. Wout van Aert's in the group. We know the big time favorites now are starting to come to play with 73 kilometers to go. And the attack from Mathieu van der Poel. Up front in the break, what's happened? Kevin Vermaak is going solo. He's dropped everyone and he's going solo up here on the Road World Championships with about 70 kilometers to go. Behind, what's happening? Well, like I said, Mathieu van der Poel caused the split. Now we see there's 2 French guys left in the group of about 20-25 riders there, and it's Benoit Cosnefroy that's selling out 100% for Valentin Madouas. There's not much numbers left in this group back here because the race has been exploded. Single file lines for 150 kilometers to go all the way up until we see Benoit Cosnefroy pulling full gas. Now we know with the Frenchman going full gas, the only one I saw pulling at the front when the Kemers came back to this third group back here, trying to pull back Mathieu van der Poel, Wout van Aert, Tadej Pogacar, Alberto Bettiol is in this front group too. We know the guys in front were kind of hesitating a little bit for the Frenchman to be able to pull it back. He does, and it all comes back together. Then we're going under about 59 kilometers to go. It's time for Alberto Bettiol, the Italian national team rider, to throw an attack. He throws in a big attack, drops down in the turn, goes into the right bend there. Once he does the 90-degree right turn, you look at his water balls. It starts to exit his bike. It exits, goes underneath his rear wheel, and Alberto Bettiol just barely keeps his bike upright as it starts going a little sideways to the left. Holds it up, gets back on the acceleration, but he'll get brought back from the group behind. He'll attack again at about 55 kilometers to go, and this time the Italian rider gets a gap on the group. He starts extending it out to about a 30-second gap. Now we see Tish Benoot from the Belgium national team. He's on the front, drilling in 100%. They're coming down the descent, flying into the right turn. Look just behind Mathieu van der Poel. That's Jonathan Narvaez right there going down for Ecuador. As he goes down, because the roads have started getting completely soaked with the downpour after the attack from Alberto Bettiol, Jonathan Narvaez slides all the way across this right turn and into the fencing. That opens up a gap to the front riders of 5. You got Thijs Benoot up there. Wout van Aert's up there. Mads Pedersen from Denmark made it. Mathieu van der Poel, I told you, he made it. He was the last guy just in front of Jonathan Narvaez who caused the crash. Then we got Tadej Pogacar to make 5 guys in the front. But you got Alberto Bettiol who's gone solo. The original group of 9 had all gotten brought back about 20 kilometers ago with the attack of Mathieu van der Poel. So with just Alberto Bettiol up there going full gas, we know these 5 guys behind have a solid chance of catching the Italian rider. Now, as I'm sitting on the Chesterfield, I'm getting excited. Wow, this is exactly what I wanted to see, minus Remco Evenepoel, who somehow had missed this move, got caught behind the crash. But throughout this Road World Championships, he was either attacking left and right or off the back or on the back wheel of the group. He was never in the right place at the right time, it seemed like, for Team Belgium. Either way, they still got Wout van Aert represented in this front group of 5. Now, these 5 guys are rotating through with just Thijs Benoot that will blow shortly afterwards, and that'll leave 4 guys up front. Wout van Aert's pulling hard. Mathieu van der Poel's going through. Tadej Pogacar's taking pulls. We can see Mads Pedersen, the Denmark rider, he's pulling through too. So you know up front the Italian rider doesn't have much of a chance, Alberto Bettiol. Now we're coming into 22 kilometers to go with just about a lap and a half to go, and you see Alberto Bettiol starting to get caught on the climb. Well, guess what? Mathieu van der Poel throws in a huge acceleration, blows past Alberto Bettiol and starts going solo. Behind what's happening, Alberto Bettiol goes straight out the back. He went from leading the Road World Championships to going out the back just as quickly. Now the 3 riders behind chasing the one up front. Tadej Pogacar, he's tried to follow the move. We see Wout van Aert tried to follow the move too, but he was the first to open up the gap to Mathieu van der Poel. Now the 3 riders are trying to work together, but not in the perfect kind of harmony. Up front, Mathieu van der Poel's gap's moving up to 10 seconds with 20 kilometers to go. We go down to 19, it's moved up to 16. We go another K, he's up to 23 seconds. Then at 16 kilometers to go, just about, I'm texting my friends saying Mathieu van der Poel's going to be Road World Champion. Well, half a kilometer later, 16.5, he goes into the right turn, loses the back tire, and the Dutchman's down. Sliding across the road, front tire goes under the fencing. He gets up as fast as he possibly can, grabs his bike. Look at the motorcycle that pulled in front of him. Well, he pulls up his bike, and as you do, take a look at his chain. His chain is still halfway on the chain ring there. So he didn't even think to look to see if it had dropped. Well, he grabs his bike. It's still halfway on. He moves it around the motorcycle in front of him, throws his legs over, jumps on his bike. About the time he's jumping on his saddle, the motorcycle mechanic's off the bike and giving the Dutchman a hard push. Now, he didn't lose any time, believe it or not. He had about 35 seconds when the crash happened, and he lost probably 6 in this crash. It was remarkably fast from the Dutchman, not hesitating at all. But he's got a problem. His shoe buckle, the bore strap has come loose and it's flapping all over the place. The Dutchman only has one buckle on his right foot. You see him reach down trying to fix it, trying to put it back on, but that's not going to work. It's completely off. Now he's coming into just about 14.5 kilometers to go to start the last and final lap here of the Road World Championship. The Dutchman reaches down, pulls it, tosses it off, and he starts accelerating to cross the line for one more lap to go here at the Road World Championship, and he's putting time on the 3 chasers behind. Wout van Aert was taking hard pulls. Tadej Pogacar was doing pulls. Mads Pedersen was doing pulls, but like I said, sometimes they weren't quite in harmony, and you'd see some small little attacks going up the climb. So every time the kilometers click by, Mathieu van der Poel up front is putting time. Now he's scarred up all over the place, all down the right side of his arm, legs, shoulders, jerseys ripped up in pieces. His shoes are falling apart, and he's still accelerating. We're going under 10 kilometers to go. He's got about a 1-minute gap behind. We start seeing some attacks there from Wout van Aert, throwing in some accelerations, but Mathieu van der Poel's holding tight, and Tadej Pogacar's not gapping the wheel. Those 3 guys will stay together, but up front, Mathieu van der Poel's just putting more time. He's got about a minute and a half, almost 2 minutes when he comes in to the last 1K. As he comes across the last left turn there, pulling in, he's got about 250 meters to go, looks back left over his shoulder, throws a punch in the air, then celebrates all the way to the line with the arms all the way wide, fingers up, because he's the #1 rider here at the Road World Championships for Dutch. Last time the Dutchman won was in 1985, so they said on GCN. Either way, spectacular victory here from Mathieu van der Poel, who put on a dominant display. When we look behind, what happened? Well, Wout van Aert, with 1 kilometer to go as they're coming down the descent, had just a little bit of gap on Mads Pedersen, flies into the right turn, holding that gap. Mads Pedersen can't close it. Tadej Pogacar's locked onto the rider's wheel of Mads Pedersen, and then we come out of the last left. Well, Wout van Aert's got a gap still. He holds it all the way in for second. What does Mads Pedersen do? Well, he starts his sprint coming out of this left turn, can't hold off the Slovenian of Tadej Pogacar, who accelerates, comes up even with about 100 meters to go to Mads Pedersen. Mads Pedersen's head drops as he knows he's been defeated by the Slovenian for the last podium medal here at the Road World Championships. First up on the podium, we know Mathieu van der Poel. Second, Wout van Aert. Third, the Slovenian Tadej Pogacar, who put on a fine show here. Tactically, I didn't really like it. Didn't care much for Mads Pedersen tactics either from his team, or him leading out Tadej Pogacar all the way into the finish, starting the sprint with about 250 meters to go. So he loses a medal. When I dissect the tactics throughout today's Road World Championships, guys, the officials failed their big-time knuckleheads, having cars change on the left side. The Dutch team, fantastic, with the exception of starting at the back after that protest. That was a little bit of a knucklehead, but Mathieu van der Poel, you were exceptional after that. No doubt about that. Each one of your attacks just looked like you wanted to make a selection, have a solid group of guys there, and then clearly you had the legs at 22 kilometers to go to light everybody up and solo here at the Road World Championships. The Belgium team, man, when I look at some of the interviews, Remco Evenepoel, at the start, he talked about how he loved this course and it was set up for him. And then at the end, he talked about how, well, it really wasn't an ideal course for him with so many corners because he's kind of a smaller guy. I could have told you that. It's hard on the small guys when you come out of lefts, rights repeatedly, and you're going against a classic specialist and you have 500 lefts and right turns throughout today's last 150 kilometers of racing at the Road World Championships. That makes it incredibly complicated. But what was Remco Evenepoel doing, riding so far back all the time, and then one moment attacking, one moment at the back of the group, even when they were chasing the group up front that had his own teammate, Wout van Aert up there, Mads Pedersen, Tadej Pogacar, the Italian rider Alberto Bettiol, every time you looked at back there, Remco Evenepoel, he was off the back or back on the front and then off the back again. So I don't know what the old Road World Champion was doing in today's road race. He certainly had fine legs, but didn't have the best of tactics or the best of bike handling skills. You guys decide for yourself. Either way, when you look at the racing throughout today's Road World Championships, there was knuckleheads all over the place. I can point out with 120 kilometers ago, Neilson Powless, the USA rider, he was attacking at 120 kilometers ago, and he's got his teammate Kevin Vermark, who was in that front group of 9 originally, with a 3-minute gap still on the circuit. So I don't know what was happening. The tactics were all over the place. The tactics from the Belgium team, they had people riding for them on the front, and then they would go to the front and start riding for unknown reasons. Didn't make a whole lot of sense to me. The racing was incredibly entertaining when I'm sitting on the Chesterfield, but man, there was knuckleheads throughout the whole Road World Championships today. No doubt about it, but one of them definitely was not Mathieu van der Poel. Make sure you guys like and subscribe. Doesn't get much more entertaining than today's Road World Championship. So I'll see you guys on the next edition of Beyond the Coverage or the Butterfly Effect, whichever comes first.